Hi, today I want to talk about a very common question. How often should you train to failure? Some people will tell you that you have to hit failure at absolutely everything, otherwise you're not training hard enough, you're not tapping into, you're not pushing the body forward far enough for it to want to lay down new muscle tissue. Other people will tell you you should never train to failure because it's too hard on your recovery. The answer, as always with these sorts of questions, is it depends and lies somewhere in between the two. The people who smash it up at each and every workout, they're not making the gains they say they are, or if they are making gains, they're assisted with drugs. You can't indiscriminately beat yourself up, workout after workout after workout, and expect to have some sort of linear progression. The human body doesn't work that way. But if you're one of these people who says, "Oh no, I can't train to failure. If I train to failure, my cortisol levels are gonna go too high. I'm gonna deplete my testosterone." Grow a set of balls, whether you're male or female. By the way, there's no gender discrimination here with that statement. Grow a set. You need to push to a place that you haven't been before. And that means that if you are of the school of thought of I stop one rep shy of failure every time, it's very, very, very unlikely that you can push yourself to where you need to go. Now, I know there are exceptions. You can pick out guys like Jay Cutler, I think 3-4-time Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler, who doesn't, as far as I know, really train to failure. But if you see how he trains like an animal. Now, if you can train like an animal and do 30 sets of reasonably heavy weight with perfect form for one body part in an hour, by all means, that can be your way of overloading. But most of us can't do that. And I would argue, potentially, there are better ways. Certainly there are numerous ways to skin the cat when it comes to muscle building. When it comes to advancing any type of training, one of the things that we need to think about with training is a better way for us to think about this concept of training to failure is this. Excuse me, I've got something in my eye. We want to train as hard as possible whilst recovering maximally. That should make sense, right? So in other words, the harder we push, the more we tap into our recovery ability. We can't train for 16 hours a day. Right? You'd be dead if you did that. Right? Does that mean you train for 1 minute a day? No, it's not enough. The application of volume is one of the tools that we use, is one of the variables that we use to keep pushing us along. Now, how does all this work with the concept of training to failure? Well, let's just look at the hypothetical 3 sets of 10. As you want to progress and you do 3 sets of 10, if you pick the weight right, 3 sets of bench press, you hit your 10 reps. It's hard, but you hit your 10 reps. The next time you're going to increase the weight. 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, depends on your level, depends on how easy that 3 sets of 10 were. But if you increase the weight appropriately, when you next go back to do your 3 sets of 10, you might hit 10 reps, 9 reps, 8 reps. Well, you've hit failure, right? Because you failed to hit 3 sets of 10. When you hit your 3 sets of 10, you've not hit failure because you've hit 3 sets of 10. But it was super hard 3 sets of 10, right? Then you increase the weight. 1 step forward, or 2 steps forward, to 1 step back. So you're hitting failure. It's necessary to hit failure. This idea, I'm going to stop 1 rep short of failure. For most training protocols that don't utilize a significant amount of volume, when it comes to muscle building, I'll caveat this, it's inevitable if you're pushing hard that you're going to hit failure. You can't be some peewee and I'm always going to start 1 rep short of failure. How do you fucking know what 1 rep short of failure is? You don't. It doesn't mean you have to do drop sets and force reps and yada, yada, yada intensity techniques. That's not what it's necessarily about. But you are going to hit failure. But where you've ballsed up is if you do 4 sets of an exercise and you hit failure 4 times, it's too hard. You've picked the wrong weight. You've picked the wrong weight, right? And you will regress. You will regress. You know, I've done things like tried Charles Poliquin's German volume training routine. I've done it with myself. I've done it with clients. And you know, you get over eager, you use too much weight. And I remember doing preach. I remember everything going up, and it went up because I was not hitting failure on every set by any means. But one exercise didn't go up because I picked the weights. I picked an incorrect weight. I was doing preacher curls, and after sort of the second set, I did 8 sets to failure. It was done, and I would regress or stay the same, whereas everything else went up. It's too hard on your nervous system. It's too taxing. You don't want that. You know, some of the ways that we improve are through training our nervous system, and simply the law of repeated efforts, just doing something time after time after time, makes us better. Does it build muscle? No. But the application of volume, continuous damage, sarcoplasmic growth, all these things, these build muscle. So volume is critical. Now, are there times to hit failure on everything? Yes. If you're doing 1 to 2 sets per body part, high intensity bodybuilding, hit failure all the time. If you're backing off, do you hit failure? No. No. What you need to do is you need to be aware of what you do, pick the right weight, and let's say you're backing off, you're doing a back off workout or a back off week, and you might be doing just 2 sets of an exercise with the appropriate load, a heavy load. You're going for 6 to 8 reps, you go for 6, 7 reps, you just stop shy, you leave something in the tank. So there are times that you leave something in the tank. But there are also times when you just go balls to the wall. So to summarize, you don't always go for failure. In my opinion, the concept of never going to failure is entirely wrong. You gauge going to failure based on the type of training that you're doing, because if you're doing pure strength training, you don't want to go to failure, because pure strength training is less about muscular damage and more about neurological stimulation. You're trying to stimulate your nervous system and you're trying to practice a movement. You know, if you look at Olympic weightlifters, they might have trained 3 times a day on the same movements, bum, bum, bum. This is different from muscle building. That's all about damaging the muscle cell, right? You want to trash that muscle cell. You want to raise lactate, pump as much blood into it. This is more about hitting failure. So I hope that answers your question. I might, if I play this back and listen to myself, I might not be very happy with the answer I've given you, because I feel that it's a bit of a on the one hand and on the other hand. But this is something that you need to understand with training. There are no absolutes, and there is no one single answer. How often should I train to failure? That as a question is an impossible question to answer unless I know exactly what you are doing. Because even if I apply that to my own training, sometimes I should train to failure and sometimes I shouldn't, depending on what I have done before, what I'm going to do later, my nutrition, my sleep, and of course, you know, even my general mental well-being, my stress levels. So these are all factors that you've got to go. But here is the one thing. Here's the one thing I reiterate in all my messages. When in doubt, go harder. You usually can't go wrong, right? In my opinion, if we have the choice, brains or balls for training, balls beats brains every time. Balls and brains beats everything. Think on that. So train hard. This is Nick Mitchell, and I will speak to you soon.